Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to day one in palette week. Today is going to be the first day over the course of 7 days that I share some sort of palette themed content. I like to do this quarterly on my channel. I did post my second quarter palette week a little bit late at the end of August, so it kind of feels like it's only been a month since my last palette week, but I love talking about palettes anyway. So today I have an update in my Pan in Every Palette project for you guys. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. I do not have a pan, but I do have a palette that I'll be rolling out. I do have a bonus pan to share, and then I will give you my updates on everything. So if you're interested, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel and you like project panning content or just chit-chatting about makeup, I'd love if you'd consider subscribing before moving on. And other than that, let's jump into the video. I don't have the most exciting progress to share with you, but I do have a bonus pan to share, and we can just start with that. The bonus pan comes from my Naked palette, my Naked Wild West palette from Urban Decay. It's a super exciting shade in this palette. I was so proud to hit this pan, really difficult. It comes from a lid setting shade. I'm so good at panning lid setting shades in the shade Standoff, but I will say I reached for this so much in order to finally hit pan on it. I will do a video at the end of this year talking about every single eyeshadow pan that I've hit in 2022. I don't feel like I've been that successful this year. I will also have the number of pans that I've hit this year in the description box down below. My goal is hit 22. We got a long way to go. Hopefully I can do that. So last update, I decided to switch over from the pan those eyeshadows to the pan in every palette to kind of give myself a little bit more freedom to choose the actual pan of eyeshadow that I wanted to project pan. I have so many different palettes in my collection, and I was just struggling with the pan those eyeshadows project format. I've loved that project and it's worked really well for me in years past, but I decided to transition over to the pan in every palette. And after my first month of doing this, I have decided one thing, and that is I either have to hit pan, obviously, in an eyeshadow pan in the palette in order to roll it out, or I have to do no pan left behind style for that palette, meaning that I use every single eyeshadow pan within the palette at least one time, and then I can roll the palette out even if I don't have an eyeshadow pan. So there is one palette that I have used every single shade in that I will be rolling out today, and I feel like that's going to work really, really well for me because I might not feel so stuck using a palette, and instead it'll give me motivation to actually get use out of every single pan in a palette that's rolled in and kind of cycle through my collection that way. I actually feel very motivated by the way that I'll be running the project. Is what I'm trying to say. And then I also decided to include one single eyeshadow as well as a face palette, just kind of add a little bit of extra. So let's start with my update on my face palette. The face palette that I randomly selected was the Lorac Shine Bright face palette, and this has been a frequent flyer in my whole collection project pan, so I wasn't too upset to have this roll in. Now I do think it'll be quite some time before I hit pan on any of these shades, but I did reach into this palette 6 total times since the last update. Mostly I reached into either Tea Rose or Aurora, but today actually I have the shade Blossom on top of some a cream and liquid blush. And I feel like I have the best dip in the shade Blossom, if you could even consider it a dip. It really isn't a dip. I do feel like if I wanted to go quickly and hit a pan, I maybe could use Opalescent as an inner corner highlight for eyeshadow, but these two shades specifically are my jam for the fall winter time. So I'm actually excited to continue to work on this palette and hopefully at some point have a new blush pan in my collection. And then I will show you guys my progress on my single pan, my single eyeshadow. So the single eyeshadow that was randomly rolled in was the shade Summer Fling by Give Me Glow Cosmetics. This is what this one looks like, and I actually have this on the inner third of my lower lash line. I have reached for this 5 total times since rolling this in, which I'm actually kind of proud of myself for, just because this is not necessarily a shade I reach for all that frequently. In fact, I don't know that I had reached for this more than maybe 1 or 2 times before rolling it in, but it is a really, really beautiful metallic blue greeny sort of shade, and I actually was not planning to use it in today's look and then just had some fun with it. So I have a little bit of a dip right here. I've mostly used this as a lower lash line sort of eyeliner, if you will. I do think it'll take me a little bit of time to hit pan on this. I've hit pan on one other Gimme Glow shadow in my lifetime, and it took a hot minute. Like, the pans are deep. So that is my update on my single shadow. We will save the palette that we're rolling out for last. So the rest of my updates I feel like are not that exciting. So first up we have the Nabla Metropolitan, the Cutie palette from Nabla in the Metropolitan, like the name, the Metropolitan Cutie palette by Nabla. I told you guys when this got rolled in that I would likely hit pan on the shade Alaska. I did reach for this palette 4 total times, and I reached for, I believe, every single shade except for this bright gold, as well as the Nothing Personal shade. Even if I end up using all shades within this palette, I think I will still keep this palette in to try and hit pan on this shade in Alaska. I do feel like I could hit pan on this. I think it'll take a little bit of time, but it's a really pretty inner corner highlight, especially I feel like for this as we head into like the winter. It kind of reminds me of like a wintry, snowy sort of effect. I can also use it as a lid topper, especially if I'm doing like a silver or like a purple. Honestly, anything. It's a really beautiful shade. So I am going to continue to try and hit pan on the shade Alaska. I'm not sure. There's like a small little dip here. I'm not sure if that was like already there or if it's like gotten a little bit deeper. I'll have to reference my progress photos, but I reached for this 4 total times, and my goal with this one is going to be to hit pan on a shade, not to do the no pan left behind. Then I have my Natasha Denona Mini Glam eyeshadow palette, and this is another one. Even if I did like no pan left behind, I am going to try and hit pan specifically on this shade right here. I did only reach for this palette 2 total times, which I'm a little bit disappointed in, but I wasn't doing my makeup all that often, and I had some other like fun inner corner highlights that I was using. Like, I was doing like green looks, or I did a purple look, and I wanted to use my Kat Von D Alchemist palette for an inner corner highlight rather than this. Now, I do have a good dip going in the corner here, but I will say these Natasha Denona mini palettes can be a little bit deceiving. The pans are still really, really deep. I have hit pan on quite a few Natasha Denona mini single shades before, or mini palette shades before, but it's going to take a little bit more effort than just using this 2 total times. That's my update there. I am hopeful that maybe I could have a pan in that one next update. Honestly, like for inner corner highlights, you never know. So maybe I'll have a pan on one or both of these by the next update. We shall see. So then the palette that I have on my eyes today, and trust me you guys, I laughed when this palette got rolled in because I had barely reached for this, and this is like my biggest palette in my collection, but it is the Be Perfect Carnival 3 palette. It's on my eyes today. This, I believe, is going to be a no pan left behind palette because honestly, I have no idea how deep these pans are. Maybe I'll surprise myself and hit pan on something. If I were to hit pan on something, I have a feeling it would be the shade Vanilla right here, and I would use it as an inner corner highlight. Again, you never know. That's just like my thought. Unless I used like one of the browns as like a liner, I guess I could do that. But pulling this palette out every single day just to use it for a liner honestly sounds miserable. I currently have reached for 14 out of, is it 40? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 5, 45. I have currently reached for 14 out of the 45 shades. I have used every single shade in these first 2 rows, with the exception actually of Vanilla, the one shade I was like, maybe I will hit pan on this. And then I also have used Clay, Sand, Cocoa, Rum, and Ginger, right? I have been taking photos of like the looks that I've created with the palettes that I plan to do no pan left behind, just to like show you guys that I'm creating looks using the shades. But so far I have reached into this palette only 2 times. Today I mean I really tried hard to to use pretty much this whole row of shades. Really tried very hard. So only reached for this 2 times. I have a feeling I would have to reach for this. I mean, let's see. I would probably have to reach into this at least, I'm gonna say at least 3 more times. to use every single shade, and I would really have to be like using a lot of shades in the looks. But I actually have enjoyed using this palette. I was a little bit nervous today using like the shade Forest and Tropics. Really scared me, but they actually performed quite well. So this is a larger palette, not my preference in terms of like palette sizes, but I also don't have palettes, or don't have a lot of colorful palettes like this in my collection, so I'm happy to have this. I'm actually very happy that this is in this project because it's encouraging me to get use out of every single shade and actually have some fun with it. So that is where we stand with that palette. And then the palette I will be rolling out that I am doing no pan left behind, not gonna try and hit a pan in this palette, is my Kaleidos Flower Punk palette. I have reached for this palette 4 total times, and I created 3 looks, but then I reached for it an additional 4th time. So I did create a look using these 4 shades, these 3 shades, and then these 2 shades. I will say my least favorite look was my mint look. I just did not love how that look came together. I absolutely love these 3 shades. Like anytime I create a look with the like mauve pinks, I'm like obsessed. And I had fun using this, like these 4 green shades, and I think I will try and create one more look with these shades because I feel like this will be a great palette to mix with my Melt Gemini palette. But I am going to be rolling this palette out of this project because I have reached for each of the shades within this palette at least one time, which I'm very excited and happy about. So I'm going to roll in a new palette now to replace that one. And I will say, are we even surprised my spreadsheet is not absolutely accurate? And by that I mean that there are a couple of palettes that are still on my list that I have decluttered. I'll leave my most recent eyeshadow palette decluttered down below in case you're interested in checking that out. But if we roll in a palette that I have decluttered, we'll just roll again. I do want to get all of my, I want to get these all into tiny decisions. Hopefully like that'll be my goal for the next update, like get all of my palettes into tiny decisions, because I feel like that's just a more fun way to randomly generate the palette. But I am going to randomly generate a palette between 1 and 136, and we get number 2. Okay, so palette number 2 on my list is the Arist Couture Supreme Nudes. Okay, this is one of my favorite palettes in my collection. I feel like I can't be mad at this. I'm gonna go grab that palette and I will be right back. All right, you guys, I have my Arist Couture Supreme Nudes palette. This is what this one looks like. A very easy pan, like a very obvious selection for me would be to go with the exposed shade. I feel like it's also going to be a rule, even if I hit pan, in order for me to roll the palette out, I still need to do at least no pan left behind. Like I feel like that's going to be like an additional rule in this project. I have to no pan left behind every single palette in order to roll it out, even if I hit a pan. Do you guys get what I mean? I'm gonna do that. But I love this eyeshadow palette. This is going to be just the dream to use honestly any time of year, but this like perfect fall time palette as well. So I'm very, very excited about this. My goal is going to be to hit pan on something other than exposed. Like I would love to see myself hit pan on either like maybe stripped or transcend or even nudist. I mean, honestly, any shade in this palette. We'll see how it goes, but that is going to conclude my update, my first update, if you will, for the Pan on Every Palette project. Let me know what you think about the tweaks to this project with the no pan left behind. If there's any other tweaks you think I should add to make this more fun or interesting for you to watch, give me your comments, your suggestions down below. I love hearing from you guys. Other than that, thank you so much for sticking around to watch today's video and for supporting my channel as you guys always do. I love you guys so much, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye.